Welcome to Girl Dad Nation. In this episode, I welcome monster truck driver Bryce Kenny. This episode is fueled with tons of great content as we get geared for life. Bryce, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Matthew. I'm excited. I'm a big fan. Pumped to be on today.
It's awesome to have you. I follow you on Instagram and see your videos on YouTube. You are a monster truck driver, which sounds like a monster of a job title.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and sometimes when I tell people that's what I do for a living, I think they wonder, like, am I saying I'm like a big rig driver? Like a long haul driver or something like that, Peterbilts or something. It's like, no. The actual monster jam trucks, the 12,000 pound trucks that do backflips. That's what I get to do for work. It's just kind of crazy to say.
Yeah, they do backflips. And you also hold a world record for the fastest time in a monster truck, I believe.
Yeah, the fastest speed. We were the first monster truck in the world to hit triple digits. And that's what I kept telling people. I said, yeah, no monster truck has ever gone 100 miles an hour, but no truck's ever crashed at 100 miles an hour either. So we got to make sure that we go about this the right way. And thankfully we were able to pull that off. It was crazy to see myself in the Guinness World Record book. That was one of the most surreal moments of my life, because that wasn't something I had ever imagined would be something in the cards for my career. And I was on page 103 of, I think it was a 2022 Guinness World Record book. It was so cool. It was fun for my kids to all sit there too and be like, look, there's Dad.
Yeah, that's amazing. Such a great story. And tell people about your truck and how long have you been a monster truck driver?
So I drive the Great Clips Mohawk Warrior truck, and it's the only monster truck in the world with a hairstyle on it, and it's got a Mohawk on top. And so that's kind of what happened when Mohawk Warrior, it used to just be Mohawk Warrior, came around in 2010. Then Great Clips, when they came around 2016, they weren't real sure what they wanted to do. Like, they just wanted to do the Great Clips Monster Jam truck or what have you. And Monster Jam was like, hey, look, we've got this truck that's being sidelined. We don't really have any plans for it. It's got a Mohawk on top. Like, what if we just attach Great Clips to the Mohawk Warrior truck and combine it? And it was the best decision. And because after that first year, it's kind of a part-time sponsorship. That was back in 2017. That was my first season in the Great Clips Mohawk Warrior truck. And that was supposed to be just like a small deal, almost like a part-time sponsorship. It was so well received. Everyone loved it so much. Great Clips ripped up the contract and said, let's do a full-time deal. They did a 3-year contract after that, and basically bought the whole truck, so to speak. Wow. So yeah, this is my 7th year full-time with Monster Jam, driver of the Great Clips Mohawk Warrior truck, traveling the country, doing backflips and jumping at 45 feet in the air for a living.
That's amazing. And then you're also sporting a Mohawk, signature to the brand, which is great. So the folks listening on YouTube, watching on YouTube can see that.
Yeah, full commitment, right? I mean, and I get plenty of looks going through airports and stuff like that. And Matthew, it sometimes in different parts of my career, I'll color it. So the last color was purple because my truck is black, purple, and silver. Well, my hair is already black, so it's black sometimes. I don't want to do silver because it's going to make me look like I'm 10 years older than I am. So I did purple, and it was a huge hit. And the other cool thing is at a Monster Jam event, we have the pit party right before every event. And so that's where fans can come and meet the drivers, see the trucks up close. It's really cool. But we always have Great Clips come out, and the stylists are there, and they gel up people's hair into Mohawks, and they spray them different colors, right? They call it crazy hair. And so they've got green and purple and red and all that stuff. So another reason why I had colored it was because it was going to drive more people over to the Great Clips tent. Because, hey, you do anything for a sponsor, make sure they're happy and get as many people into their tent as possible. And so it really stuck. It kind of became a little bit of a shtick for me. And to have a purple Mohawk, I took a break from it a year ago, and I think I might go back though. I don't know. You got any color recommendations? I feel like red. I feel like I've been flirting with the idea of going red, and I don't even know why. Can't figure that out.
Yeah, maybe you need some red flames on the side of the truck.
Maybe. That's not a bad idea. Now you're talking.
My daughters, I asked my 4-year-old, like, what's her favorite color? And she just says rainbow. Like
Oh yeah,
it's all the colors. Like she'll
all the
paint.
colors.
Yeah, she'll color like the dog on the coloring sheets, just rainbow. It's everything is
Uh-huh.
rainbow and stuff.
Oh, it
She
sounds like
loves
she's gonna be
it.
a politician.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to choose. Why do I have to choose one, Dad? I can choose them all.
Yeah. And then we're always doing like crazy hair with the girls. They love putting their hair in crazy ponies and
Oh
things like
yeah.
that. So
Have they done the dino braid? So the dino braid is like the bubble braid that goes down the middle. It kind of looks like a mohawk. Do you know what I'm talking
okay.
about?
I'm
If
not
you
sure. I'll have to look that up. Yeah.
yeah, Google. I think they keep. I feel like they keep changing names. I think the last name I heard was a bubble braid, and it
Okay.
looks like a mohawk down the middle. But that one, I just had the Great Clips girls put that on my 8-year-old daughter's head, and did her hair up in bubble braids. Eliza loved it. She would not take it out for days. She was very proud of it, probably because Dad has a mohawk too, so that kind of helps.
Yeah.
But it was really cool, and it stuck. And I tried to get Monster Jam and Great Clips to think about doing a second truck and then having the mohawk on the truck be that bubble braid. And then we need one of our female drivers in Monster Jam to be the driver of it. I know the Great Clip stylist would love it. The fact that a girl was in there piloting the Mohawk Warrior truck. But anyway, just food for thought.
Yeah.
Great Clips of Mohawk or Monster Jam didn't jump on the idea. So that's okay.
Yeah. Well, I love ways, to get more girls involved in Monster Jam and stuff like that. My daughters love playing with their cars, and they've got some monster trucks at home and things that they play with. So yeah, what's it like as a dad to have your kids come along? And I'm sure they've watched you like at some of these events.
Yeah, the very first time I got a call from Monster Jam to go test at Monster Jam University, which is a real place, by the way. They gave me a diploma and everything, which I thought was a little bit of a stretch. But the first time I got that call, I actually had to reschedule the very first trip because my daughter was born, and it was our first child, and so everything. She's only known me in Monster Jam, right? She didn't know me before that. She certainly wasn't alive when I was chasing my professional top fuel drag racing dream back in 2010 and 11. And so it's been so much fun because they don't know any different. They just know that Dad travels a lot. And so when my daughter was about 5, she actually came to me and said, "Dad, I don't want you to do Monster Jam anymore." And oh, honey, what's why? What's wrong? It's just because you're gone all the time and I don't get to see you enough and stuff like that. And of course, that's heartbreaking as a dad. You're like, look, there's nothing more important than you, honey. Like, I just want you to know that my job and my career, yes, that's how I provide for our family. Yes, that's what I feel like I've been called to do and to impact the world through that. But none of that is more important than you guys. And so anyway, fast forward about a year from then, and I remember she said something. I told her, maybe that was after COVID and stuff, and I was thinking about walking away and kind of being done, just because of all the chaos of everything else. And I was kind of getting tired of traveling as well. And I remember looking at my daughter and I said, "What do you think if I wasn't Mohawk Warrior anymore? Like, what if I did walk away?" "Oh, no, Dad, you can't do that. No, you can't do that." I said, "Oh, what?" I said, "It wasn't that long ago you were telling me that I should quit." No, you shouldn't quit. No. I like you being Mohawk Warrior." And then like a day or two later, I realized I went to go pick her up from school and I had a hat on. And, I don't always gel up my hair and stuff like that every day. And so, but she got mad at me. She's like, "Dad, why'd you wear a hat?" Well, I was like, "What, honey, what's the big difference? What's the big deal?" She said, I just really like it when you have your mohawk up." Okay. And then I kind of thought about it. I went, "Is it because you like it when I get recognized?" And she started laughing. She said, "Yes, I do. I like it when people recognize you and call you Mohawk Warrior." So like that attitude has changed for her. Here she's 8 years old now, and she thinks Dad is cool, and I'm soaking up those years, right?
Yeah. While they last, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know how long that is going to last. And so I'm like, man, if I don't know if she'll be 13 and want her dad to be wearing a mohawk. And so I'm just soaking that up, that she wants me to get recognized still. But it is tough because, the kids, they feel it. She didn't know what it was like when I was in a corporate job, I was working 8 to 6 o'clock, plugging back in at 9 o'clock, plugging back in on Sunday evenings, working 80 plus hours a week. She didn't know what that was like either. And to be honest with you, Matthew, I don't think she would have enjoyed that more than the travel. It's tough because I'm sleeping in a hotel room and stuff 4 and 5 days out of the week when I'm in the middle of the season. But when I'm home, I am home. Yeah. I'm all theirs. Our summers, I pretty much have off. So the fact that I get that much time to just go to the lake with them and do stuff, it's a give and take. And sometimes they just don't know any better. They don't know any different. So whatever your situation is and what you know the most, that you always think the grass is always greener. So we've that's been probably the biggest battle over the last probably couple of years of us just trying to settle in as a family as our kids are getting older. And now they're aware of what dad does and what dad has to do to pull this all off.
Yeah, that's cool. And yeah, those opportunities where like you involve them in what you do and what you're passionate about and your craft. And yeah, that's amazing to hear when your kids are proud of you for what you're doing to provide for your family. And then like I try as much as I can to reciprocate that. Like anytime they come home from preschool and they've got something like their craft of the day or they've learned something new, like amazing. Dad's so proud of you. And just encouraging that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Because I think that whenever it's interesting. I had a dad that was always, he worked incredibly long hours. So he was not really, we didn't see him much during the week. And it was really on the weekends, but man, he never really missed a game on the weekends. And he would always say to me, Bryce, I'm proud of you, buddy. Great job today. I'm so proud of you, man. That's pretty much from a father to a child. That's really what I know, for at least as a boy, right? That's what I need. I needed that affirmation from my dad that he was proud of me. I could have run through a brick wall for something like that. And I know a lot of people don't have that relationship with their father or didn't. But you can change that. Like you can still have that relationship with your kid. But I've learned, and I stole this from someone, Matthew, but I take it one step further. And I'll have Keegan come off the soccer field, or Eliza, gets done with her horseback riding lesson or something. And I'll say, Eliza, I am so proud of you, honey. Daddy is so proud of you. Are you proud of yourself? Like, it's always that second question, because I heard someone say, look, you're not always going to be around them to tell them you're proud of them. And now is the time that you can build in them that self-image and that sense of self-pride to know, yes, I'm proud of my effort. Yes, I'm proud of this result. Yes, I'm proud that I helped a teammate score a goal today. Those things will enable them to say, it's not just because dad says I did well. It's because I now know at 13 or whatever that point is, where they go, I know what a good effort and a bad effort is. And today I'm proud of my effort, or today I'm not proud enough of my effort. I could have done better. That is everything for a child. By the time they get out of the house and they're 19, they go out in the real world. If they can understand what a good effort versus bad effort, what self-pride is and all that stuff, man, I know that they're going to be ahead of the game. And I can't remember who I stole that from, but it's already at my kids being 8, 6, and maybe not the 2-year-old, it's not paying off, but at 8 and 6, I can tell you they're some of the most confident kids in their class. And I think that's a big reason why.
I love that self-confidence that you're building in them is so important. And that's going to carry on as they're young adults, as they're in the workforce, as home life, all those different things. Like when you can be proud of yourself, like it motivates you in all these different areas. Yeah. And I love being a dad to daughters. And one of my guests, I asked him like, yeah, what do you love about being a girl dad? And one of the things he said, he was like, it's kind of like the ultimate like underdog story in a lot of ways. He's like, I love rooting for the underdog. And he was like, sometimes like there's all this like emphasis on sons, and like we have sort of a male dominated workforce and things, but yeah, to empower strong female leaders, he was like, yeah, I love that. And that self-confidence is amazing too. And I know, hopefully when my daughters grow up, they'll have the confidence to go out and do all these different things, or like, anything that they're interested in, even if it's a primarily like kind of male dominated realm. Like I know there's many male monster truck drivers, but yeah, you just mentioned there's female monster truck drivers. So I love pointing out those opportunities that, like, especially now that they're young, like the sky's the limit for them, like anything that they want to do and their interest. I love as a dad being able to just encourage that and point out all these amazing people going after what they're passionate about and not letting anyone, or especially themselves, say that they can't.
Yeah. 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 It's funny too. So I grew up, I was one of 4 boys. All right. Excuse me. So I had 3 brothers growing up, and my wife was one of 4 girls. So, to your point, my son will walk in and he'll be doing something, and my wife is like, is that normal? Is that like normal boy behavior? And I just start laughing. I'm like, honey, yes, I'm sorry, but he's fine. He's good. And then my daughter will walk in, she'll do something or have some reaction to something. I want to be like, what the heck? And maybe a lot of times it's conflict that throws me in the way that my daughters deal with conflict versus my son, Yeah. And so it'll throw me, and I'll look at my wife all the time, like, is that normal? Or do we need to like step in on that or what? She's like, no. She's like, that's totally normal for a girl. So anyway, it's been fun to kind of have each other to help each other kind of get in the minds of the other gender. But man, I wouldn't trade any of that for the world. And to your point, man, a strong female presence changes everything. I'm a product of a very strong mother. Like, my mom was incredibly gifted as a mother. And so I was raised by a strong female presence. And even though I had the so important male influences and mentorship in my life too, I really had the best of both worlds. But I look at my daughters, and she's the rule follower. She is honest as the day is long. But man, she is tough too. And so if you're gonna question her, you're gonna walk into it. She told us one day, and my wife just stared at me when my daughter said this. She goes, I like to debate. Well, that's something I would say, because I do. I enjoy a good, healthy discussion and a debate. But those are the things that keep us as parents on our toes. But it should excite us. We should welcome the differences. And it's not about, there's a big push lately about equality, and I get it, right? I get it.
Yeah.
But I want my kids to understand more than that they are as good as or can do that as well. I am very passionate, regardless if it's my daughters or my son, to know what they are gifted at. What makes them unique? Not better than everybody else, but different. They are different. So what makes them different than anyone else on the planet? And we've lost touch with that in society. Society is trying to make my daughter think a certain way and think, in terms of what they want her to do. I want her to think in terms of what she needs to do, what she wants to do, ultimately what she's gifted in doing, and then go out there and know that she can do hard things. I think that's my job as her dad.
Yeah, I think that's such a key thing to learn in life, is find out what you're gifted at. And then marry that with what you're passionate about. And when those two things like come together, like your natural talents, but then also your natural like desires to do or achieve different things, and how that can contribute in such positive ways. When you as a parent see those things in your kids and give them every opportunity to excel and to grow in those things, it's such an amazing gift.
Yeah. And when you get it right as a dad, you're like, holy smokes, did I do that right? Was that something I did well? Because I don't think we trust ourselves, and I think we question ourselves quite a bit too, because there's a little human lives. And while we think that they're just going to be carbon copies of us, they're not. And they're so different. You said you had 3. Are all 3 of yours daughters?
Yeah, I have 3 girls. Yeah.
So
staying on brand for Girl Dad Nation. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was expecting as well, if you're going to have a podcast of that, but can't wait for y'all to get pregnant again with a boy. That's going to be funny. So now
I don't exclude, like I knew going into this, I'm still a young dad. There's always that possibility. So I don't exclude dads who also have sons, but you'll be Girl Dad Podcast
plus a boy or something.
Yeah.
you have to rebrand.
Yeah.
But no, it's so cool. It's challenging. It's scary, but man, it is so rewarding that these people are so different, right? These kids are so different. The personality traits, you don't know that they can be so different, but it is truly amazing. And then you find that love for them in such different ways. And you see them do and find the things that they love to do and their passion. But that's what I'm big. I'm big on finding their passion. And then my job is to help equip that passion. That's it. That's my job as their dad, to be their leader, to help them equip their passion and let them know that they can pull it off.
That's great. 100%. And having your daughter becoming a dad for the first time, how has being a girl dad just like changed the way you think, maybe challenged you?
Well,
Yeah.
my wife would say it softened me up. She said that, and it does, that first time you have a child, regardless if it's a girl or a boy, like when you become a dad and you see that child for the first time, it is everything in life changes. Your priorities change. But because there was something about her being my daughter, and still to this day, like I have a special relationship with my 8-year-old, and she just gets it. Like, and I feel like I get her a little bit better too. And we just seem to be on such a similar like mental wavelength. But I was very just like, I don't want to say I was a hardened individual back then, but I was a go-getter. I've always been a high performer. I'm like a lion out there in the world looking for the next hunt. And a lot of times that affects the way you see people and influence people. And what I mean by that is, no one gave me a book of how to win friends and influence people in high school. And they should have, because I needed to understand that everyone's wired differently. That's not, I was just all over the map, and I'd rip the door from the frame if I had to get into a building, kind of an analogy. When I had my daughter, it softened me up because I realized that the things that I was wanting to accomplish and things in going and doing, that none of it even compared to the weight of this responsibility I now had to lead this little girl, and to turn and to help do everything I can to let her feel loved. And then to lead her in a direction to let her know that, look, the things that you're best at, you're skilled at, and you're passionate about doing, like, it's going to be hard work. It's not going to be easy. I'm going to be proud of you, however all of this turns out. But I'm also going to I'm going to push you every step of the way and put you out of your comfort zone, because everything good in my life, Matthew, has been on the other side of my comfort zone. Everything. So when I'm questioning some things about my ability as a dad or where I'm taking my kids, that's one of the things I'm doing. I'm like, am I allowing them to be uncomfortable enough that presses them? Right. It doesn't I think there's a detrimental aspect of that. There's a protecting aspect that sometimes we don't need to allow them to be so uncomfortable. But it's our job to push them out of their comfort zone. And that's where they grow. That's where they stretch. That's where they find new things and new passions, because they're like, oh, I can do this. Right. I do have what it takes to, pursue a professional horseback riding career or whatever it might be. I've got all of them in the junior dragster right now. My wife was freaking out because they would go, they're going 45 miles an hour down a racetrack at 8 and 6 years old, and they're all buckled in and have a helmet and all that stuff. And she's terrified. And I'm just cheering my face off on the starting line, and of course, bawling like a baby the first time I sent them down a racetrack. But that's what I grew up doing. So first of all, I knew it was safe. And then second of all, I knew that they could do it. And now all of a sudden they don't understand that their friends in third grade and kindergarten, they've never had total control over a machine like that. So those are those elements where, was the first time uncomfortable for them? Absolutely. But getting them out of that comfort zone, they won't have any trouble getting their driver's license. Let's put it that way. If they do, it's because they sped on the driving test course or whatever. They went a little too fast, or they were a little bit too egregious. It wasn't because they weren't comfortable behind the wheel. But that's our job as dads, right? Yeah.
That's such a great point. I love just what you said about pushing them and even ourselves beyond our comfort zone, where we get that opportunity to grow and to learn. And I think so oftentimes, like us as dads, we want to be protective. I think especially dads of daughters, like there's this overemphasis, I think, on being the protector. And then you get into like the memes about like, oh, you have a daughter, like dad needs a gun, and all these other like kind of tropes about like just being there as this like defender, this protector. And while being a protector is important, I think that can overlook like what we're also trying to do is push them to be self-reliant and to stretch beyond like what we even think that they're capable of. And oftentimes my daughters will even surprise me about what they're capable of. And that's also like one of the greatest feelings, is seeing in them those opportunities to surprise me, and celebrate those things too. But yeah, you mentioned just getting him into junior drag racing, getting him around vehicles, machines, and everything. What kind of lessons has that given your kids, or those kinds of skills that you've seen?
Well, the biggest thing I've seen from my 8-year-old is that she keeps the car clean, right? And I've explained that to her, like, look, your job is to make sure this car stays clean. And so she does. She'll go out there and randomly do that. We had it out at a car show one day, just showing it off because it's called the Warrior Wagon, and kind of a play off of my Monster Jam truck and all that stuff. But she loves it, and some kids were like trying to get in the car, which between you and I is totally fine. And that's one thing I want to ultimately one day use through my foundation that I do. It's called Live Like Warriors. But I want to teach kids that wouldn't have the opportunity to learn how to drive, put them in the car and do all that stuff. So anyway, I was kind of enjoying it. My daughter did not like that because it was hers, right? And not that she didn't want to share or anything like that, but she had pride in the fact that she took care of it. She wanted it to stay clean. She'd been the one that cleaned it. And that's probably the biggest one. And then my 6-year-old son, he's just the wild man. He's the cowboy. And I think for him, it's been more around, the idea. I remember the first time that he drove and it was dark out, so the lights on the track were on. He did not want to do it. He did not want to do it. And I kept looking at him, and I got him out of the car, and because he told me, he said, "Dad, I don't want to drive. Let Eliza do it. It's dark, too dark, and I'm kind of scared." And I didn't know that was one of those dad moments where I was like, do I make him do it? Do I say, look, son, you're going to do this, and then him get to the end of the track and realize, oh, I did it? Or, it's not like this is the Army. Do I? And I'm actually made this other decision. Normally, I'm more of the dad that would be like, look, get your butt in the car. You're going down the racetrack. You'll be fine. But I pulled him out of the car and I said, look, I want you to know something, that I believe you can do it. There's no question in my mind that you can go down the track. You're going to be totally safe. And I would never allow you to go down that track if I didn't have 100% confidence that you'd be able to see every step of the way and that you'd be all right. So I believe in you, son. I want you to know that. However, if you really don't want to do it right now, it's okay. We can do it the next time. We can do it the next time it's dark. And you better believe, that's the only the caveat I'll give you, is you better believe that I'm going to make sure and take them another time when it is dark and the lights are up on the track and stuff. Because even though I let him out of that situation, and I think there's a time and place to do all of that, because he said, Dad, I really just don't want to do it. Let Eliza go down the track. And even though I let him out of that situation, I have got to revisit it. I've got to get him back out on the track in that same environment, because whether he knows he is or not, in the back of his mind, he was questioning himself. And it was good that he heard me give that affirmation to him, but he also has got to, at some point, actually go down the track when the lights are up and it's dark out, so that he can know, oh, I do have what it takes. Because that is what a son is always asking. Do I have what it takes? Whereas Eliza, her she wants to know she has what it takes, but the question is just so different for her. And it is more about safety and things like that. But she's out there and has this, it's more about how she's going to look. She'd be more afraid that if she didn't go down, is she going to look silly? Keegan's thinking, am I going to run it against the wall? Eliza's worried that she's going to look stupid if she does it wrong. So there's just, and there's two different ways to parent that situation, I think.
Yeah. Even with my kids, they're a little bit younger than yours, but like similar kind of thing. Like it's mostly like getting up to the tall slide at the playground. It's like the oldest will go, and then the second is like, I don't know just yet. And I never try to force it. I wouldn't ever like try to do something that they aren't first comfortable doing. Yeah. But yeah, just encouraging that, try to get them to go a little bit farther, a little bit past their comfort zone, knowing that it's safe, of course. But then, yeah, once they do that, like it's the repetition, it's seeing. And I remember like when my oldest went down the slide for the very first time, it was like such a proud moment.
Yeah.
And it was such a proud moment for them too. And then immediately, we were probably at the playground for half an hour before she gained the courage to actually go down the slide. And then right when she went down the slide, she wanted to go again and again and again. And we're like, okay, now we have to go.
Yeah. Yeah. We didn't think you'd enjoy it this much, honey.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then you mentioned before that people don't often get a book on like how to be a good dad once you become a father or different things like that. But you did write a book. And so you have Geared for Life. What inspired you to write your book?
Well, one of the biggest reasons I wrote this book was because I had always told my grandfather before he died how important and awesome it would be if he could get his wisdom down on paper. And I missed that. And because I spent years in a race rig with my grandfather, getting to hear him talk about life, hear him talk about truth. And then I would go and watch him do really hard things at the racetrack and the platform that he had, the disappointments, the highs and the lows. I watched him come through all of it. And so that gave me a lot of belief that I could go do hard things and I'd be okay. Like none of those hard things are going to kill me, right? I'd be able to push through. Well, because he didn't write a book, I've always said that even if I wrote a book for my kids to be able to reference, regardless if I'm still alive or not when they need it, that's what I wanted to do. So I wrote this book truly because I wanted to get some of the stuff that's been imparted to me. I want to get on paper because I know it'll help them. And the whole idea behind the book is, it's called Geared for Life, making the shift into your full potential, because our head hits the pillow at some point in our life and we go, is this it? Like, is this really all there is? Like, I just thought life would be better by now. Maybe it's that sophomore in college that's freaking out that they don't know what to major in, and they feel like they're making too big of a decision for their life and they can't commit to it. Or the 35-year-old that's like, he's knee deep in his career. He's too far down the road. He can't really change now. Maybe he's a director and now he's all of a sudden getting good pay, but he's unfulfilled, that kind of thing. He's just going like, man, I feel like I'm drowning. Or the 65-year-old that just retired and it's like, man, I thought retirement would be way better than this. I've got nothing to do. I don't know what to do with my days. Those types of individuals, we all hit something like that at some point. And in my opinion, I have become an expert in finding my next gear, like leveraging one situation to the next. I don't have all the answers to life. I don't have the secret to life, Matthew. Any book that claims to have the ultimate formula or something like that is just rubbish. They're just doing that. They're just trying to sell books. I am a firm believer that just like a car, just like my Monster Jam truck, when I expire one gear, I've got to shift into the next one or I'm going to blow the motor. And so some people have been in the same gear doing the same thing for 35 years. And they wonder why they're exhausted. They wonder why they feel like their engine's about to blow up. It's because they're at 7,500 RPM in life and they need to shift. They need to shift into that next gear that they may not even know that they have. And so this book, I outline my 7 gears. And what I believe a gear is ultimately is our foundational beliefs. So 7 things that you couldn't shake me from these 7 beliefs if you tried. No one can. These things, and it's things like being purpose-driven. There's times that I've got to shift into a purpose-driven decision, not a monetary decision. Case in point, when I left corporate America full-time to go into Monster Jam, I took a 30% pay cut. The reason I did that was because it wasn't because it was a monetary decision or even a career decision. It was because I believe that was going to put me back into my purpose in life, which was to impact the world through the platform of motorsports, right? So I had to shift into that purpose gear. Another gear of mine in the book I talk about is make memories, not egos. There's times I need to get my butt off the couch, go make a memory with my son or my daughter, not go and check my Instagram account and that last post I just made to go and maximize that. Sometimes I need to not do what my ego wants and I go and make a memory because those are the real trophies we want to make. Or another gear is becoming built for other people. But the point is, I constantly am shifting in and out of these gears, just like a car going down the highway that takes an off ramp, right? The exit ramp. And all of a sudden you come up to the stop sign. Guess what? You're not still in fifth gear going 75 miles an hour, your car shifted down into first, right? So you're going to use different gears for different situations. The key to everything is knowing what you believe and then knowing how and when to shift into the right gear at the right time, right? The right gear for the right life situation. And so someone's going to get to the end of my book, Geared for Life, and they're going to steal a few of my gears. Like they're going to realize that they believe in my fail faster gear, right? Get through the failures as quickly as you can so that successes will come sooner. Your issue is you're trying to negotiate. You're worried about the failures. No, get through it, fail as fast as you can so that you can learn the lessons and start succeeding, right? That's a gear I find. And whether it's been in a sales job, whether it's been in learning a new Monster Jam trick in front of 50,000 fans where you're either a hero or a zero, I go into that fail faster gear a lot. But they're going to steal some of my gears. But my hope is that they uncover some of their own by the end of my book. It helps them realize what they believe that maybe they forgot about, and it becomes a foundational principle for them. And that belief, that gear will drive your action. It'll change your action one action at a time. And then all of a sudden, a year from today, your life's going to look a lot different.
Bryce, that's such a great way of looking at it. Just great principles for life too. I love that idea of just like getting to that next gear and not letting yourself get burned out. And I think that's true too. Like as I'm kind of in early stages of fatherhood, I'm like, okay, these are the challenges I'm dealing with right now when my oldest is only 4 and we're going through potty training and like making friends at preschool and stuff. And then I know like once they get a little bit older and I've got 3 kids in school and then I've got teenagers and then like as they're preparing for college and all these other gears, but like focusing on the gears now, but also like anticipate those next shifts and like as our family dynamics change and my wife and I are still navigating like our different career paths and things, like how can we like best optimize for as those gears kind of shift? How can we best prepare for those?
Yeah. So, and those beliefs as a parent, maybe that's what it is. Maybe someone's like, man, I feel like I struggle understanding how to parent my kid. Well, why don't you go back to what you believe a parent should do? Right. That's going to guide your actions. You almost got to work backwards a little bit because people are like, I want my son to start obeying or my daughter to start obeying more or whatever. Right. Insert whatever action or change that you want to create. Well, chances are your actions are allowing it or creating that situation. Well, don't beat yourself up. We all can't, this book is not a book written to encourage people to do more. Right. If people are like, man, I'm at capacity now, I can't do more. It's not about that. It's about when you understand your beliefs, it'll fix the action. So maybe you change what you believe in turn or realize, go back and realize what you believe a father's role is for his daughter. You talked about it earlier. Like a lot of people, they only think about protecting, which is a very important role, right? It's a very important role. Well, protecting the evils, protecting my kids from the evilness of our world is one thing. Protecting them from doing anything that's hard is not the right way, right? But we don't think and try to understand what we believe in that certain topic as a parent enough, and then we wonder why our actions are allowing this kind of behavior or building that kind of behavior in our children. And so that's exactly what it is. People cannot claim that they have a way to do things if they don't know why they're doing them. And our gears and our dad gears that we find that we've got to shift into, because it's that same situation. You get off of work, you come home and you walk through that door. We are so reactive most times when as soon as our hand hits the door and turns that doorknob, that needs to be us shifting into that dad gear, right? That's like our shift into that dad gear, and it pulls out those beliefs. So when we walk in, the way we interact, the way we act to our kids and get our kids acting, that's where all of a sudden now, again, a year from today, the results will look a lot different if someone wants some change.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also mentioned failing faster too, and not being afraid of failure. But can you think back to like one instance that may have been like at the time a major failure, but how you grew from that?
Oof. Yeah. I mean, I think my mind went straight to as a parent. So I'll talk about that because I think that I can give a million of those on my career, but my wife just brought this up to me, and people are going to have different opinions, right? Just same thing, your belief set, right? Around like spanking. Yeah. Do you spank or do you not spank? Or spare the rod, spoil the child type of family. We do spank. However, I think there's the right way and wrong way to do that. And my wife just reminded me of this the other day, because you said potty training. My 2-year-old is in the middle of potty training, kind of, but my wife is takes more of the approach of like, hey, when they're ready, it'll happen. And I'm kind of like, no, we reward them when she does it right, and we punish her when she does it wrong. Like, she needs to know that there's consequences doing it wrong. And I forgot I did this, and I have backed off completely the last couple of days from pushing my wife to do it this way. She said, don't you remember with our oldest kid, who, her name is Eliza, my 8-year-old, that our first child, right? That she said, we were struggling getting her to not, go number 2 in her diaper, to not poop in her diaper. And so, and I just finally was like, no, we need to start, we need to kind of pop her a little bit when she poops in her diaper. And so she knows that there's a consequence to the wrong decision, because it was going on weeks and months of this, right? So I did it. All right, Matthew, I popped her. We went to a Monster Jam event that weekend, and we were staying in a hotel room, and all of a sudden we looked around and we couldn't find Eliza. And all of a sudden we heard her, but it's not like we lost her, but we were like, where did she just go? We know she didn't leave the room. She was hiding in the closet because she had just pooped in her diaper, and she got that bad consequence. And in that moment I went, okay, so it didn't fix the behavior. It just made her scared of the situation to where she didn't feel like she could come to us and say that she messed up. Right. And I never spanked her again or popped her for going number 2 in her diaper. And guess what? She learned pretty quickly after that anyway. My son learned pretty quickly through it without having to pop her. But I forgot about that story until my wife reminded me of that the other day, because I was kind of like vying to start doing that with my 2-year-old. And I just stopped and I went, oh, yeah, wow. Let's not do that with my 2-year-old. Like, let's not incorporate spanking for going in her diaper. So yeah, I mean, you failed, right? I failed in that moment because that wasn't the emotional response that I wanted my first daughter to have. And thankfully my wife reminded me of that lesson so that I didn't have to learn it twice. But that's exactly what it is. It's like, fail faster. How quickly can you get through the failures? And no, we're not going to do everything right as a dad and as a parent. But if you just know that, if this was sales and you had to fail 90, you had to get 99 no's to get for every sale that you made in your job. All it is, most people go through 25 no's and they're like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. It's like, if your mindset is, man, how fast can you power through the 99? Because then you'll get to the 1. I got so passionate because I had a sales job one time. I didn't want people to say yes because they were messing up my string of no's. I was trying to get so many no's that I could just get that many yeses down the road. The yeses will take care of itself, but I wanted no's. That's a whole different perspective shift. And that's a gear. And as a parent, just like that, the diaper scenario, you got to make the failures. You got to get through the failures, and they're going to make you better. And it's going to help the wins and the successes as a dad come. And so thankfully, yes, I'm sorry, Eliza, that you had to endure dad's failures for the lesson, but it saved your sister Ava from probably getting a couple spankings already as we're potty training her.
Yeah, I think you learn as a parent. There's been many things that I'm not proud of as a parent. I don't think there's a perfect parent, but each time our kids challenge us to be better, we have to reflect on those things. And I wanted to ask too, because you talk about this, but how has vulnerability been a key tool for you?
Well, I think vulnerability with our children is key, right? And I don't know if that's what you're asking, but I am, when I mess up, I am not afraid to go to my daughter and say, honey, I'm sorry about that. Like, dads aren't perfect. I don't get everything right. Now, you were wrong in what you did, Eliza. Like, I don't regret correcting you, and you need to understand that. But, I'm sorry that I said this. That was wrong of me. Those vulnerability things. And if we're able to do that and be willing to apologize when we do get things wrong, or sometimes you misunderstand your kid, and you quickly just write off the situation. And that's where, if you can come back and say, look, I'm sorry because I didn't listen to you well enough. And that's my fault. Right. But what happens is it teaches our kids that being sorry is okay. Like, meaning it's okay to, when you get it wrong. But it's also, you need to go and correct it. So my kids have learned how to be vulnerable because I've been vulnerable to them. That's the only way that they learn. They've learned how to apologize, not because we are berating them saying, you must apologize for stealing that toy, blah, blah, blah. This is why you should do it. No. They learned how to apologize because mom and dad are willing to go to them and say, hey, we messed that up. We're really sorry. Can you forgive us? Yep, we forgive you, Dad. And then we can move on from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think like just as much as we want our kids to be able to come to us to admit that they're wrong, I think as parents, like that's such an important thing for us to do too.
Yes.
Absolutely. So we're almost out of time, but I wanted to give you an opportunity. I liked this as kind of a new segment to the podcast before I get to my final question, but wanted to give you an opportunity. I call it Proud Dad Moment. But think about your kids. And is there anything that you want to share, just an opportunity as a dad to brag on your kids?
Well, I've already bragged on them on the junior dragster stuff, but one of the things that I've been blown away by them lately is just their generosity. Here we're kind of getting into the Christmas environment. I've heard them talk more about other people than ever before. One of my daughter's friends at school, her dad tragically passed away in his sleep like a week and a half ago. My daughter was so distraught for her. And not just because, she can't hardly comprehend death. She's 8, right? Yeah. But she knew her friend woke up and would never see her dad again. And the compassion and empathy she felt in that situation was immense for me. Like it took me back. She wrote a letter and all this stuff. But the thing that got me is she said, Callie's coming back to school today. And this was that following Monday. Callie's supposed to be back in school. Okay. What are you going to do? Like, how are you going to? Well, I want to make sure that she's taken care of on the playground. I said, okay, what's that going to look like at recess? She said, well, whenever I'm out there, I'm just going to stay with Callie. I'm going to make sure she knows, like, Callie, I'm here for you, and then I'm going to make sure that she just has fun. So whenever we do, she has fun. And if anyone tries to mess with her, I'm going to make sure they don't mess with her, and it's like, that was one of those moments. It's like, you're 8 and you're already mama bearing these friends of yours. Yeah. But that took me back just because of the sweethearted, like that innocence, but also that's leadership. That's leadership through and through. And it made me a better human being after I heard her talk through what she wanted to do for her friend. It was really, really sweet.
Yeah, that's super nice. That's amazing that she's thinking that way and being a friend.
Yeah.
And then for my final question, and I ask all of the dads on the podcast this, but want to give you an opportunity to just give a special direct message to your kids. So something from Dad, what would you tell them directly? And feel free to address each one.
Yeah, no, I could actually do it as a group. Eliza, Keegan, and Ava, I can tell you that Dad is incredibly proud of you. And as I've seen each of you come into your own strengths and the things that you understand about life and the things that change, I can say confidently that the human beings and the men and women that you're going to become are world changers. The impact that you're going to have, the natural leadership that you already possess, and the passion for life. I can tell you that you've got what it takes. I'm incredibly proud of everything that you've already accomplished at a young age. And the things that you're going to go and do, your mother and I are just so incredibly proud of you. And we can't wait to see the ripple effects of your life. And keep up the great work. And when in doubt, sit back in your bed and say and know that your dad loves you. Bryce,
thank you so much.
Absolutely,
I love
man.
That.
Thanks. Yeah.
It was awesome having you on the podcast. I really appreciate the time, your wisdom. Getting to talk to a monster truck driver, which is super cool. That's definitely a first for me.
Hey, we'll have to have you out at a monster jam sometime down the road and get the girls out there and we'll make them all Mohawk Warrior fans though. That's what we got to do.
Oh yeah. We got to get their hairstyle on point for the show.
Yes. Yeah. Try that bubble braid. See how it works. Uh-huh.
Oh, they'd love that. Cool. Thank you so much. Please tell people where they can connect with you.
Yeah. Instagram's probably the best as far as, especially with like direct messages and stuff like that. I'd love to hear what people think about the book. Go on and read Amazon reviews of Geared for Life. By the way, it's helping a lot of people and it's going to help you too. But my Instagram is @WarriorBryce. So I do a lot on Instagram, TikTok as well, and then YouTube. I've started doing quite a bit more on YouTube as well. But come on to social media. And then the book, you can find it anywhere books are sold. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Audible, if you're an audiobook individual. And I actually voiced over the whole book as well, which I was pretty stoked about. But I had a great time doing that. So go on Audible. It's on there. And go find that next gear you never knew you had.
Awesome. And for all my listeners in Girl Dad Nation, thank you so much for following along with me. It's been an amazing journey. I hope this has helped you and inspired you as it has me. And you feel free to connect with me on Instagram. I'm also on Twitter/X, and we're starting to put some episodes on YouTube. So go check it out, Girl Dad Nation, on all the platforms. You can also email me directly at girldadnationpodcast@gmail.com. And until next time, go be a dad.
Ai phải giờ đây